In the 19th century, death was not a precise science. It was a conclusion drawn from silence, a still chest, cold skin, an unmoving body lying in a dimly lit room while candles flickered and people whispered prayers. There were no machines to confirm the final moment. There were no monitors, no alarms, no certainty. Death, more often than anyone liked to admit, was a guess. This uncertainty shaped the life of one man in a way few could imagine. He was not important by the standards of history. He did not lead armies or write books. He lived quietly, worked modestly, and expected his life to end as most lives did in his time, quickly, quietly, and without record. Instead, his name would be whispered in medical circles and local legends for decades, all because he was officially declared dead twice and survived both times. He lived in a small European town where life moved slowly. Mornings began with church bells. Evenings ended early. People aged quickly, worn down by labor and illness. Winter was particularly dangerous. Cold disguised disease slowed the body and fooled even experienced physicians. Many who appeared dead were simply too weak to show signs of life. The man had been unwell for days before the first incident. He complained of fatigue, dizziness, and an odd pressure in his chest. His family urged him to rest, assuming it was exhaustion. Medical care was expensive and often ineffective, so people avoided calling doctors unless absolutely necessary. On the night it happened, the man collapsed without warning. His body became heavy, unresponsive. His breathing slowed to such a faint rhythm that it was nearly invisible. His skin felt cold to the touch, colder than it should have been. Panic spread through the household, and someone ran to fetch the local physician. The doctor arrived with little urgency. He had seen death many times before. He examined the man by candlelight, pressing fingers against the wrist, leaning close to the mouth to feel for breath. He waited only moments before straightening his back. The verdict was short and final. Dead. There was no ceremony in the declaration, no hesitation. Death was common, especially among men weakened by illness and age. The family cried quietly. Neighbors were informed. Candles were placed near the body to guide the soul, as tradition demanded. The man was washed, dressed, and laid carefully into a wooden coffin. His face was peaceful, his body still. To everyone present, death appeared undeniable. But inside that still body, life had not yet ended. Consciousness returned slowly, like rising through deep water. The man could hear voices, but they sounded distant and distorted. He tried to open his eyes and could not. He tried to move his hands and felt nothing. Panic bloomed inside his mind, sharp and uncontrollable. He understood something was wrong. He felt himself lifted. He sensed pressure beneath him. Then came darkness, complete and suffocating. The lid of the coffin was closed, sealing him inside a silence unlike any he had ever known. Time lost meaning. Seconds stretched into eternity. He tried to scream, but no sound came. His body refused to obey him. The terror was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet, intimate, absolute. Then, against all odds, a sound escaped him. A weak movement. A shallow breath. Someone heard it. At first, those in the house dismissed the noise as settling wood, as grief inventing what it wished to hear. But the sound came again, unmistakable this time. Movement. Life. The coffin was opened. The moment defied reason. The man's chest rose. His eyes fluttered. He inhaled sharply, as if pulled back from a great distance. Screams filled the room. Some fled in fear. Others fell to their knees, convinced they were witnessing a miracle. The doctor was summoned again, now visibly shaken. He examined the man more carefully this time, listening longer, watching closely. He admitted his mistake. The man had not been dead. He had been trapped in a state of profound unconsciousness, something not yet understood by medicine. Recovery took weeks. The man survived, but his mind never fully escaped the memory of the coffin. Sleep terrified him. Silence felt dangerous. He spoke often of the darkness, of hearing people mourn him while he lay helpless. Life resumed, but it was never the same. Years passed. Memory softened fear. The story became something people spoke of less often, something uncomfortable, something easier to forget. The man aged. His body weakened naturally, as all bodies do. Then illness returned. This time, it came slowly. Fever, weakness, long periods of unconsciousness. Doctors were called again, different men, confident in their judgments. They listened to the man's history with polite skepticism. Stories of mistaken death sounded exaggerated, almost mythical. One night, the man slipped into another deep, motionless state. Once again, his breathing slowed beyond detection. Once again, a doctor declared him dead. This time, there was no interruption. The coffin was sealed. Funeral arrangements were made quickly. The town gathered to mourn a man they believed had finally reached his end. Inside the coffin, awareness returned. The man woke to darkness and panic. The air was stale. The walls were close. His heart pounded violently, but his body refused to move. He understood immediately what had happened. He knew where he was. He was being buried alive. The terror was greater than the first time, sharpened by memory. He tried to fight his body, to force movement, to scream. His hand struck wood, weakly at first, then again. A sound echoed. Outside, the funeral procession stopped. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else went pale. Then the knocking came again. The priest stopped speaking. Silence fell. The coffin was lowered to the ground. Hands trembled as the lid was opened. What they saw broke the crowd. The man was alive, barely breathing, eyes wide. Terrified beyond words, panic erupted. Some fled in fear. Others wept openly. The priest reportedly refused to continue, convinced that forces beyond understanding were at work. The man survived once more, but his body was permanently damaged. His lungs weakened, his heart struggled, his mind remained painfully alert, haunted by the knowledge of how easily the world could bury someone who could not defend himself. Word of the incident spread far beyond the town. Doctors debated it in journals. Philosophers questioned the certainty of death. Fear of premature burial grew rapidly. How many others had not awakened in time? The man lived out his remaining years under constant observation. He demanded long waiting periods before burial. When he finally died for real, doctors waited days before allowing his body to be placed in the ground. His story changed behavior across Europe. Safety coffins were invented. Graveyard watchmen were employed. Death certificates became more cautious. All because one ordinary man refused to stay dead when the world decided he was gone.